Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In honour of National Mead Day this past Saturday, we mead you to listen to today's episode, an episode dedicated to mead. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Sup?
And we are two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer, or mead. Come join us. Do you want to put mead in the intro like a few more times?
The problem is I try to catch you out with these intros and it just makes me laugh.
I'm far too professional.
I'm writing jokes for myself here. Like, did you like that? Do you like that sweet? Like, we need you to listen to this episode.
Very punny. I enjoyed it.
And it's this past Saturday when this episode comes out, it will have been
International Mead Day. I feel like there needs like a dun 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 International Mead Day.
I'm sure when we get that soundboard.
Yes, when we invest in that soundboard.
We can get
Patreon.com/love beer learning. Come be a supporter of the podcast. You get early access to the episodes, and you can fund our soundboard. Thank you.
When we get that sweet soundboard, we can have the International Mead Day tune. So
fabulous.
Quite good.
That we'll only use once a year. Maybe never again.
But how funny would it be to just casually drop out International Mead Day?
Dear listeners, we are not drinking beer today. We are drinking mead. In case you missed it,
she only said it like once, so I don't.
Why are we drinking mead? Why not?
Because it's International Mead
Day. Because it's International Mead Day. I mean, that's not why. That was just a really happy accident.
To be fair, that was like, what's funny is that it genuinely was a happy accident because we were like, how interesting would it be? Like, I don't know that much about mead. Like, how interesting would it be to just like try some mead? I don't know. I think I've tried it before, like a sip of something like at a beer festival or something, and I've been like, oh no, thank you. Like, not for me.
I've had mulled mead.
I thought I'd challenge myself. Is that like mulled? Is it kind of like, how similar is that to like a mulled cider in taste?
It's just warm and honey like, because in case you aren't aware, dear listeners and dear watchers, mead is a fermented beverage made with honey and water and then various other things that the meadery would like to add into it. So it is basically honey is going to be your primary flavor. It basically tasted like nice kind of warm sweet honey.
It makes me think of like when you say like mulled mead, and obviously because the honey that's quite a big point in the mead. It just makes me think of a hot toddy.
Yeah, kind of like that.
I had that one time in my life.
Like that.
That's quite
exactly
good.
what it tasted like. So yeah, it depends.
So basically, if you're ill, get some mulled mead and you'll be fine.
I had it at Winter Wonderland in London several years ago, and of course because it was cold, so nice hot cup of mulled mead.
Those like Winter Wonderlands and like the winter festivities is always where you get like mulled wine and mulled cider and apparently mulled mead. So I don't think like in the US, speaking of, I know this is like not about mead, but speaking of like mulled wine and mulled cider and mulled mead, like I just feel like in the US I never really knew about or tried mulled wine or mulled cider until I moved over here. I don't know if it's just maybe me and my upbringing, maybe I just was never exposed to it, and there's plenty of other Americans maybe that have, but I genuinely have.
Cider's different in your country though, isn't it?
Well, definitely. Your cider's not alcohol, you have to have hard cider, and I think
I had to explain that to my husband the other week because we were watching something American, and like they were
giving cider for breakfast.
They were giving cider to kids, and he was like, "Why are they giving cider to kids?" I was like, "It's not alcoholic over there." I was like, "It has to be hard cider over there for it to be alcoholic," and he was like, "Oh, that's weird."
But then, like, I know, like, I think kind of not too long before I moved, so I'd already known what hard your cider is, hard cider,
real cider.
I already knew what that was because I'd already been over here and I'd had that, and then I was like, oh, that's not the same thing of what I'm used to. So I know I had like experimented with quite a few different hard ciders that had, I think they were like newer type breweries that were churning out cider before I left the US. But so I've come across that, but like mulled wine, I'd never come across till I moved here.
You don't have that over there.
And you don't just like run into mead like very often. But you know what it is, because you know, like, you think like medieval, like Renaissance fair. You're like, what do we drink? We drink mead and grog. I don't know if that's the thing. I think that's the thing. I don't think they did. So it is said that mead is the oldest alcoholic beverage in the world. Apparently it beats beer. So I've got an interesting family story about mead. Casual.
So I'm just going to chuck this in there because I think it's really interesting. Everyone else probably be like, why are you telling us this story? So my mum's great granddad, so my mum's maiden name was Grey Mead.
I can see where this is going.
Right, see where this is going. My mum's great granddad, so my great granddad, always said that they were greys before he came along. He liked beer so much he added mead on the end. This was like the family story, right?
That's not where I thought it was going.
Right, so mead
I thought you were going to be like, we were a meadery, like we made mead.
No, right. So my great granddad decided that beer and mead were the same thing. Point one, incorrect.
Point one.
Sorry, great granddad.
Your ancestors are going to haunt you.
No, he's not, because I've looked up the past. So then we were doing a bit of family history, and we were like, you know what, we need to look into this story that granddad told, that, you know, he added mead on, because actually when you go looking, we can't find grey meads anywhere else in the UK.
I've never even heard that
our family's
surname.
Right, no one's ever heard of it. So it was started to be slightly feasible that maybe he did add mead on the end because he could. I searched a bit further back, and actually I think we're getting into like my great grandfather. His father was a Mead and his mum was a Grey.
They just double barreled it.
Well, no, so his dad died fairly early when he was a baby. So from what I can glean from it, he must have spent a lot of time with the Greys, and it depended on who filled in the census as to whether they put Grey Mead or Grey Mead 2 words or Grey Mead 1 word. And then over time, it's just become Grey Mead.
Oh, yeah. I think that kind of stuff as well. Like names changing when you have like immigrants coming in the, 1910s, 1920s,
but the stupid thing with our family
is someone's just like, oh, I heard it this way. This is your name now.
None of them are immigrants. They just couldn't decide what their name was. And they're just like, oh, that's our name now. Okay, cool. That's our name now.
That is pretty interesting. I thought you were going to say like, oh, going back in time, they used to be like the mead maker of the area. I was like, I know where this is going.
No, all my family were like farm labourers. They were all farm labourers, but they did used to pick hops. So circle back round to beer. We're back round. We're back there. We're back in the room.
We're back to beer. But we're not about beer today.
We're not about beer.
It's mead day. We're deviating. It's pivoting. Yes, we've got these. We've got these lovely
tasting packs from Gosnell's
of London.
They were doing a deal, weren't they, on the tasting pack? So we just
thought it'd be quite interesting to try it. They're all sparkling though, so none of these ones are normal. I don't know if I'm going to be brave enough to try this, but I do have some normal mead as well. If you're looking at the camera, I got this from Stonehenge, and I can't even tell you the last time I went to Stonehenge, because I got into the habit of going to Stonehenge so much from people visiting me that I said, F Stonehenge. I'm never going back to Stonehenge. People like to send me photos because they think it's fun to send me photos of Stonehenge. And it is funny because I've got one friend that always sends it every time she's driving by, and she just catches me by surprise. She'll be like, look at this picture of a sheep. And it will be like a sheep with like Stonehenge way in the distance. And I'm like, you MFer. But yeah, I got this from Stonehenge. I don't know if it ages well or not. I don't know. And
I've not looked that up in my research either, whether it ages well. I quite liked that. She says waving if you're watching the video. And it was a little envelope that came in with the meads, which is a little seed bomb which Gosnells give everybody to plant flowers that will help the bees.
Yeah, it was cute.
I love that.
Very,
I haven't planted
very
it yet,
cute.
obviously.
Yeah, and what I found really interesting about these sparkling meads is like it wasn't just a normal sparkling mead, and it wasn't even just a flavored sparkling mead, right? It's not like they're not all just standard. Oh, let's do a cherry mead or something like that. We've got, to bring it back round to beer, this green one here, if you're watching the video, is the hopped mead.
Hopped mead.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
We do have one fruited one, which is the pink one.
Yeah,
that's hibiscus.
Well, technically,
mead.
That's not fruit; that's flower.
Well, yeah, flower. But I mean, it's like one that is just a general flavour. Is more what I meant.
Yes.
Then we've got the blue one, citrusy.
Citra
C, as in the ocean. And then we've got a sour.
Yeah,
sparkling mead, and I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for the sour. It's supposed to be a bit like a lambic, according to the website.
Interesting.
Yes, I'm excited for these. Do we want to crack one open and then I'll tell you about making mead?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to give? So you kind of already said about what is mead, but was there any other points that you wanted to make that you hadn't already covered? Sort of on what actually is mead? Which one do you want to crack open first?
Should we do the hopped one first?
Yes, that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. What glass have you got?
So that was going to be one of my questions for you, is what are you supposed to drink it out of?
So I looked this up. It's some interesting choices. It says in a stemmed glass, a bit like a white wine glass. I have got my little stemmed tasting glasses. So I think these are perfect. A mulled one could also be put in a whiskey tasting glass. That's those, the little nice shaped tumblers with the little foot on them. Or you could potentially have it out of a drinking horn or a tankard.
That's what I was gonna. Because you laugh. I was thinking, like, what's the appropriate wear for this? You need to have a horn or like a drinking one. Yeah, like that's what I was thinking of, because I just picture like Vikings.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think people think of like tankards,
proper like stone or bone tankards.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I do have a drinking horn. I don't have it with me today.
I'm quite jealous. I've always wanted one. I thought that'd be quite cool, but then they're always really expensive. So I
managed to get a good deal on one at a music festival.
Never bought them because they're always like, here is a horn that's like this big and it's so much money. And I'm
like this. It's got a belt holster.
That's pretty badass.
I'm gonna have to get that out of storage and drink.
Gonna have to use that more meads. Well, my glasses were like just these, but I do have
I think they'll work.
I've got a whiskey one. Hold on.
She's got tumblers. Oh wait, get the whiskey one.
Let me go get the proper one.
Yeah, she's got. I was going to say, I thought you had whiskey tasting glasses, and then we can show that to people on the video. What I mean by a whiskey tasting glass.
I've got two of these.
Oh yeah, so that's
whiskey
what I'm
ones.
about.
These
so
are whiskey ones.
Yeah, they've got this kind of what would you say? Kind of bulb shape.
Yeah.
And then they've got like a little glass foot on the bottom.
Yeah, like it's not it's like a solid notch.
Yeah.
I don't really know how else to say that.
Yeah. That's a whiskey tasting glass.
Cloud water.
Oh yeah, that'll work. Those will work.
And then I was out of anything else in this immediate vicinity that would work, so I've used my Brew Dog.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll allow it. We'll allow it this one time.
Didn't really have any other things close to hand. So
right, shall we crack open this hopped one?
Yes.
And then we'll talk about how mead is made.
Sounds good. I didn't know about like temperatures either, so I've just pulled these directly out of the fridge. Is that?
So I looked it up, and room temperature to chilled, like lightly chilled, or of course
these are probably too cold.
Yeah, so I've had mine out of the fridge for a little bit, so they might be a bit because I think you're going to lose some of the flavors if it's too cold.
We'll circle back round to them by the end of it.
Yeah, we can give it another try. Of course, you can have it mulled. So temperature varies depending on what you're feeling. I'm pouring it. To be fair,
I think anytime I've seen it, so I just poured mine like a beer as well. You can tell that we don't do mead ever.
Yeah.
If this hasn't already given away the fact that we don't normally drink mead, then I don't really know what will.
An interesting smell.
It smells like cider to me.
Yeah, it does smell
like cider.
Smell like
mead.
I believe.
But I don't know what mead
on the
smells like. I
label.
like that I was very quick to be like, it doesn't smell like
mead.
Like
What does it-
genuinely,
it
I
doesn't
don't
smell
know.
like what you think mead should smell like. So I was reading about this one on the Gosnell's website. They don't say what hops are in it. They just say New World hops. But they did say that you will get a bit of like gooseberry and elderflower.
I smell that.
I'm wondering. Yeah. So I'm getting that. I'm wondering.
It does say on the back.
Wondering.
Serve chilled.
Oh, there you go. That's fine then. I'm wondering if they might use a bit of Nelson because you get a bit of Nelson Sauvin.
Yeah,
you get a bit of that from those,
like the vinous.
Yeah.
Like no, I get that.
And I can smell the honey.
I do get gooseberry actually.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say it's like a sweetness, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think where the cider element of it comes from is it very much get that cidery type sweet smell to it.
Go in, but I've already tasted it. It's lovely. It's very sweet.
It is very sweet. It tastes a bit like just white grape juice.
Yeah.
I think I was expecting because they're all like sparkling.
It's not.
I was waiting for that
tiz.
I was waiting for that tiz, and I was like, "Oh, there's no real tiz there."
No, it's just. It's got quite a few carbonation bubbles in it. It's quite nicely clear.
When I say it's flat, I don't mean it's flat as in
no.
Like if you were to describe a Diet Coke can as flat, you'd be like, "Oh, that's not great because it should be carbonated. It should be fizzy." This, I'm not saying it's like that it not being fizzy is a bad thing. I was expecting it to be fizzy, but then I think I know that mead from the one time that I've had mead, it's not like that. It tastes like the consistency of how this is.
I like it. I don't. If you put that in front of me, I wouldn't say it was hopped.
No,
but I will be interested to see how the flavor is different to the others to see whether then I'm like, oh yeah, that I do understand that.
I'm kind of going back and forth between like gooseberry cordial.
I can really taste the honey. Can you taste the honey?
Or vinous. I don't know if I can really get the honey that like.
I do.
Because I think it just sort of, for me, it just blends in.
Okay.
But then yours is slightly warmer than mine.
Yeah.
So mine literally came out of the fridge.
It's got a nice mouthfeel to it. Like it's not as thin as I expected it to be.
I do get like gooseberry cordial, battling it out. Like my descriptors are that battling against, like you said, kind of like the Nelson Sauvin, but like white grape,
elderflower,
vinous, elderflower, like that, that element of it. And it tastes a bit like juice to me.
Yeah.
What's the percentage on it?
They're only 4%.
That's not
only 4%. This makes these are session meads. So shall I tell you how mead is made?
Yes.
Right. So mead is a fermented beverage. It's very similar to a beer. Just you are using honey and water instead of grains and water. And then sometimes fruits, spices, grains, hops, whatever can be chucked in. Flowers exactly can be chucked in to add various different flavors. But the main thing about mead is obviously honey. Now, as we talked about with Wild Weather in episode 25, if you'd like to go back and listen, where we were discussing their beer Cephalopod, which uses honey. Honey can be very different depending on where it's from and what the bees had basically been eating.
Still blows my mind to this day to think about that. To think about the fact that you make something even with one hive's honey, and then the next batch you make is even if you don't necessarily taste the difference, it is not the same.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. Science.
It's so interesting. Yes. So like if they've been eating orange blossom, that is going to taste very different from bees that have been eating the nectar out of heather.
I've got a question.
You can ask me about bees because I don't know a lot about bees.
I was going to ask you about bees, but it's a really stupid question.
Do you know what? I knew you were going to ask me about bees, and I was just like, I'm going to look at mead But she's going to ask me like some
But
sciencey
it's got
questions
nothing
about
to do.
bees.
It's not a sciencey question.
That's fine because I can't answer science questions about bees.
I just had a sudden moment where I just
Yes.
thought, like, because you were saying if they're eating orange blossoms and stuff.
Yeah.
Do bees have mouths?
I mean, I don't know
Do
the
bees have
actual
mouths?
mechanics of how they eat, but they take the nectar, don't they, or the pollen, whichever one it is, and create the nectar, which then becomes honey.
But do they have mouths?
I don't know. I'm not a bee scientist.
Okay, but that's not an obvious question, right? Like, I didn't just ask, do they have mouths? And you're like, obviously they have mouths. Like, don't be stupid. But like, have you ever seen a bee's mouth? No.
I mean, how close have you got to a bee?
No, probably pretty close. I threw a pizza at it once.
You threw pizza at a bee? Bees are endangered.
No, we got my personal space. I was eating a slice of pizza. I don't know. My brain panicked because I've never gotten stung by a bee. This is a proper diversion to what we're talking about. Feel free to cut this out because this could be outtakes for us. Genuinely, I was sitting eating pizza and I've made it so many years into my life, decades into my life, never getting stung by a bee ever. I know bees don't sting. I get it. I understand, but I've never gotten stung by any type of bee looking. Yeah,
looking.
Yeah, I need to like touch wood because it's still not happened. So now, as I've aged, I've decided that mentally now I've decided, but not on purpose, it's just happened, that I'm worried I could be allergic to bees and I won't know because I've never gotten stung at the age when you'd be able to get help for that.
This is totally you grab a subject and just go like round and round and round.
I was like that's it. I've got anxiety now. I could be allergic to bees. So this
is the same conversation we had about you being allergic to the COVID vaccine, isn't it?
That's because someone told me that somebody they knew went into anaphylactic shock. That was a different situation. I'm fine now. I'm double jabbed. But yeah, so that was my panic. So I was eating pizza outside, and this from Lidl, it was like one of those little like pizza focaccia things,
right?
And then a bee came very close to me. It just wouldn't leave me alone. It was like flying around my pizza. And then I don't know, the panic set in and my brain just went, just give it your pizza. Like, this is a stick up. Give it to it. So I just...
Bees don't want pizza.
Yeah, I know. But my reaction was to just throw the pizza in. And I audibly, because my husband can vouch for me, I audibly went, just have it, as I threw the pizza. And I like ran inside. I'm literally, I wish I could tell you that I've made this story up. I am not making this story up. I quite literally went, it was just like bumbling around, just in my personal space. Like I was like, it's the personal space show. Could you please like sort of move? And then it just wouldn't. And it was just around the pizza so much. And I just thought like, I'm being shaken up right now. It wants my pizza. So I literally, in a 3-second span, my brain decided that's what it wanted, and I chucked the pizza and I just went, just have it, and I ran in the house.
Right. I don't think bees want pizza. I'm just putting that out there.
But I'm still not confident if they have mouths.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm gonna have to Google that later. But I'm glad it's not an obvious. You weren't like, duh. No. Obviously, if mouths. Right. Don't be stupid.
Anyway, should we talk about making mead?
Yeah.
Right. So mead can also be called honey wine. And it can take 150 grams of honey per litre to make a 4% mead like we're drinking now. So that's like a kind of a sessionable level. Of course, they can go much higher. What's the ABV on that old bottle?
I was just looking.
Yeah.
14.5%.
See, they can go up very high.
Made for English Heritage by Lime Bay Winery. So it is made by a winery.
Okay. So obviously, honey is sugar. And what does yeast eat? It loves a bit of sugar. So pretty much like your basics of I'm putting this out here now. I have never made mead. But I have been following a couple of mead brewers on TikTok for a while now, before we even were going to do this. So I've been having a little nosy at how they do it. So you mix your honey with water. Obviously, you want like some really nice quality honey, some interesting honey to get those lovely flavors in there. That is then, so it's usually in like boiling water, so you get good syrup going. You can chuck anything else you want in there. Like I haven't been able to work out when Gosnells add their flavourings. I don't know whether it's at the point before fermentation or whether they add it after fermentation.
I'm gonna message
find
them
out, because I couldn't see where they do it.
Mock this, tell me, remind me, and I'm gonna go ask them.
So you can then of course add different flavourings in there. There was a traditional brew version that I was watching today where they added tea in.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that could be interesting. Add fruit teas or whatever in. Bit of Boutillier's Drew styly there. Bit of Tonka, don't know. And then
it's not Boutillier's that like that. Don't be silly.
Sorry,
it's low
key,
and it's not. You're confusing people.
I'm getting confused.
Go on.
Anyway, so you then you have to cool that down to a temperature that is appropriate for the yeast that is used. Is then left to ferment. And what I found interesting, and if anybody does brew mead, please tell me this, whether this is true or not, or whether I've just missed something. But when you are brewing a beer, once you finish the boil, you want to get it cooled down to the temperature for putting your yeast in as quickly as possible, because you don't want any sort of bacteria or anything getting in there. From the people that have been brewing mead that I've been looking at, they just kind of sit it on the side and let it cool down. Like,
interesting.
No ice baths, like no work. Like I've got a work chiller that attaches to my tap, and I make like an ice bath and blah blah blah, and cool it really quickly. Mead makers don't seem to be concerned with that, so I wonder whether there is less chance of contamination at that point in the brewing in mead than there is in beer. But
or is it that
I've not been able to work that out.
The point that you like what you're doing after you cool it down, is that happening? Is it the same steps, where is that not sort of the end?
So you cool it down, and then you got to put yeast in. So in beer, you've got to cool it down as quickly as possible, so you've got no contamination. Then you stick your yeast in. Mead, people do exactly the same. They cool it down to the temperature that's correct for their yeast, put the yeast in, whack a lid on it with an airlock, leave it to ferment. Anything from 2 weeks to a month, depending on what you want. Just like in beer, you'll take a gravity reading to see where your sugar is at, and then then you wait for it to get down to like a really low final gravity, and then you bottle it. It's generally bottles. They obviously,
these are
Gosnells are using cans. I don't think it's kegged. I've not seen it kegged. I've seen bottles.
Interesting. But do you think
but
it's not
a carbonated? It's generally not a carbonated beverage, so I think bottles and cans is probably more of the way it goes.
But even so, do you not think some element of that is like, you don't see all of us out here just drinking mead, do you?
That's true. But
like, how many people are going out and about to?
I suppose you can
mead?
stick it in a barrel to barrel condition it, because then you'd get different flavors as opposed to a keg. Different.
Do you think you could barrel age it?
Yeah.
Like proper barrel age,
because it will still get the flavors from the barrel, won't it?
Interesting.
Yeah. So then condition it for a while. The longer you leave it, the clearer it's going to get, and then it's ready. Now, most mead is generally still. As it ages, the carbon dioxide disappears. There's probably a better scientific term for that, but basically, as it ages, your carbon dioxide disappears. It's not like beer where it's still got yeast in it. In fact, often mead brewers will, because where it's been, the yeast likes the sugar, it's going to ferment all of the sugar away from the beer. So away from the meat.
We're in that mode, isn't it?
Sorry, in beer mode. It's going to ferment all of the sugar out of the mead, so it's going to be really dry. When they're bottling it, canning it, whatever, mead makers will back sweeten. So you add more honey to it to add back in that sweetness. Or I assume at that point you could also add other flavorings if you wanted to. Of course, that can make the yeast start fermenting again, which, as when you're making beer, you want that to happen. You actually add some sugar to it to create carbonation. Mead makers don't want that. So they will add sulfites, which will stop the yeast from doing its thing, kills it off. Then you get this lovely sweetness as well as your alcohol in your mead. So I thought that was really interesting because that's quite different from beer making.
Do you think, like, as well, you know how we said bees, they, you know, depend on the, you know, where they are in the world, what they're eating, all that kind of stuff. They have different flavors. Like, do you think that there's certain people that are like, okay, I'm making a hibiscus mead, therefore the honey I want to use is going to be something where they use particular, like, something that's going to complement the flavor of the hibiscus, for example?
Yeah, I bet so.
Or do you think that's just like, yeah, we're just going to go one honey all in?
But I suppose that's the same. I suppose that's the same.
Like, do you think it would enhance it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that's the same as any brewer. Like, brewers consider what malts they use, what hops they're going to use, like what combinations to make the final product.
Definitely.
Mead makers are going to do the same.
Yeah.
I would say
it's just quite interesting, like, because from doing that episode of Wild Weather, I found out about so much more variety of honey than I ever knew about before. And it's like, where do you start? You're like, this is kind of what I want to end up with. So I've narrowed it down to like 50 types of honeys that might work. Yeah. Now, which ones are the cost effective ones? Right, okay, I've narrowed it down to 20 types of honey.
Because it's going to be quite a lot of honey to make like a large batch of mead.
That'll be another thing quite interesting to ask them, is like, for the Gosnell's one, you know, do they use the same honey across all their ranges, or do they vary it up?
Well, I did have a look, and they actually blend, because each batch of honey can be different.
Yeah,
they blend honey to get a consistent flavor across their session meads, because obviously that's a consistent product. They've then got small batch products where they are selecting particular types of honey to create those, because they are just going to be a one-off small batch.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'd like to talk to somebody about that. I feel like it'd just be really interesting to hear about how they even go about doing that. I know that's not beer, I know that's not our realm, but I just feel like I want to be like, talk to me about how you make like a consistent honey. Like, how do you do that? How do you even go about doing that? It's just crazy.
Blend it. It's the same as, you know, same way that lambic brewers do it. They blend various different ones until they get the flavor they want.
Yeah, it's just I don't know.
That's a fun job.
It would be
trying all the bits.
I feel like it'd be really stressful.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because you're like, I have to hit this baseline, and I have to hit this baseline with a bunch of things that aren't consistent. That, like, no single one of those is consistent.
Yeah.
But you have to make one consistent flavor by mixing and matching all these different inconsistent things.
Yeah.
Okay, it would just be so stressful.
I think it'd be fun. I just want to try all the honeys.
Then, to be fair, I was never, we used to get like in my elementary school, I don't know what you'd call it over here when you like,
depends on how old you are.
I don't know, between like 5 and 10, I guess.
Primary school.
Yeah, so that primary
infant school.
We used to have to go to like, we'd have our different lessons, we'd move around, we'd have like music class, and our music teacher, who was she was pretty nutty. She had
music
llamas.
Teachers tend to be.
Yeah, they do. They do tend to be, don't they? Her name was Miss Manjin, and she had llamas, and I think she also had bees, or maybe she didn't have bees, but she used to buy honey sticks, and that was like, someone's got something right, you get a honey stick for performing well. Okay. And we used to like earn honey sticks, and it was always great to like earn them, because you'd be like, haha, I've got honey sticks, but I never liked actually eating them.
Oh, that's sad.
So I don't know, I wasn't one of those kids that could just sit there and be like, I'm eating all the honey, because some of the kids definitely did, but I was like, yeah, cool, I've got 5 honey sticks now, and then I'm like, but what am I going to do with them?
Could you trade them for, you know, better stuff?
No, it's not like you trade them for goods and services. No, there wasn't like it, because everyone's like, I'll just own my own honey sticks. There's no need to trade. Like, I like my Oreos a lot more than I like honey sticks. So no.
Boo.
Yeah. So I just, so that's why, to me, I think it would be a stressful job more so than enjoyable.
Right. I get it. Shall we open the next one?
Yeah. Which one do you want to do next? I was thinking.
We do the citrusy.
I was thinking citrusy.
Yes.
Is it fair to say it's like citra hop, or is
No.
this something completely different?
No, because I thought it was. I was like, oh, no, but it's not. So this one's got lemon, tarragon. Oh, it has got hops in it, so maybe it has got citra hop in it, but it gives a salty finish like the sea.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't read that it had citra in it.
This one smells even like it has a bit more sweetness to it, I think, in the smell.
Oh, I can smell the tarragon.
Maybe that's what I'm smelling, but it smells a bit.
They're the same color.
It smells. There's a floral quality to it, and it smells a bit like car air freshener.
That's the tarragon, I reckon.
It's that like, and I don't mean that in like a rude negative way. I just mean that in like the freshness of like a nice fresh sea breeze,
Yeah,
air freshener or something like that.
that's interesting.
I'm getting the honey more in that, I think.
It's a lot sweeter.
Yeah, but I think the flavor's a bit bolder. I'm getting a bit of cinnamon in it, which might be the tarragon.
I think that's tarragon.
Getting like spice.
This one has a thicker mouthfeel to me.
I would agree. But this also comes across. So to me, this tastes more like US apple cider, because I'm getting spices and I'm getting fruit and spices, and like there's that sweet, I think like the honey is that little bit of sweetness. This to me, to describe it in a thing, I'd say it tastes like autumn in the US. Like if I had to like say it tastes like what am I associating it with? I'm associating it with the season autumn.
I'm getting weird banana.
That's weird.
I think it's the tarragon.
I'm getting no banana,
but it's coming across as banana to me, like really overripe banana.
I can see, like, when you say really overripe banana, you kind of pointed out that way. Like, that's not immediately where my head goes, but I can see where you're coming from with that.
And I said I think this one's sweeter, but I think that's a lie, because I think it's drier on the finish.
I think, like I said, I agree that I think it's sweeter, but I think it's sweeter because I think the flavors are bolder.
Yeah.
I think sticks out a lot more than the other one. I think
it's got a drier finish. And interestingly, they're pretty much the same colour. And actually, I was having a look, and the type of honey used will dictate the colour of it. Yeah. So they may well use the same base honey.
The smell is just so remarkably different.
Yeah, they're completely different.
Oh, it smells even more strong when you go from one to the other.
Yeah.
This one's got like even a lighter, so this one's the hopped one. This one even has a lighter smell to it. Yeah. This is just everything about the citrusy is just more amped up. I just feel like it's a bolder overall.
It's all right. It's not a fave.
I think I prefer it.
Do you? No, I like the hopped one better.
I prefer that to the hopped one because I think there's just something a bit more. I think there's something a bit more. Like, I don't know, there's something more meady about it. And I think like I want mead. So it gives me mead vibes. Like I feel like I should be
I get that.
Plundering, or like, I don't know, raising horses in a barn like a peasant. I don't know. Like I don't
plundering or raising horses in a barn.
I was thinking like Viking vibes.
Because they
plunder
Vikings
things.
Were on ships.
Yeah, they plunder stuff.
But where did the horses come from?
Because then I was thinking like in like the Renaissance, like I'd be like medieval times, I'd be like, I live in the castle and I raise horses.
Okay. Fair enough.
Get on my level, Joe. I'm painting you a picture here.
You definitely are. I feel like it's come out of a fairy book, but
you don't know my life story.
Totally not.
But this is very, I don't know, I think I like this one because it has that like spiced element to it, and I really like that. For me, I taste a spiced taste to it, and I like that.
I like the hopped one better. They're both quite nice, quite interesting.
I think the first one I could have more of.
Yeah.
Because I think the bold flavors and the fuller mouthfeel and the sweeter element to that second one means you could, I think it is a lot. So like one small portion of it is great. I think if I were to say, you know, if we were at a mead festival and they were like, cool, you can have like one of these for however much you know, session one of them, it's probably not going to be that one. That's going to be, after a while, just too much.
Yeah. I don't think I really get the salinity from it either.
No.
Is that more in the smell, do you think?
I don't even think it's really in the smell that much though for me.
I don't know. I don't really get that.
I think it's so balanced out that it almost just probably gets muted by everything else that's in there.
Yeah.
So I just think it's not strong enough to sort of cut its way through the sweet and the spiced for me.
Can we move on to the hibiscus, please?
Yeah. Yeah, let's go.
I'm excited for. I love hibiscus.
I'm not sure if I was more excited for this one or for the sour.
Yeah,
because I'm quite excited for both of those.
Yeah.
The first two, I was like, yeah, it's cool, but
I can smell the hibiscus as soon as you
it's very yeah. Oh, and it's different color.
And it's pink.
So I was expecting I didn't expect it would be, because I thought my expectation will be that it's going to be pink, and it won't be. So I didn't want to. Here's
it smells like
it looks
jam.
like a rosé.
It looks like a really dark rosé. It smells like jam.
It does smell like jam. I'll give you that.
It tastes like floral jam.
It does, yeah, actually.
And I like it.
I'd go with that. This one for me is a lot drier than both the other two. So this is like not even just a dry finish. This is just dry. And I feel like this one's got more crispness to it.
Yes,
this is more what I expect when someone says like a sparkling mead. The other two were, and like I said, not for the effect of saying it in a rude way, they were more flat, but they were more what I expect of a typical mead. This is more what I expect of a sparkling one.
Yeah, definitely. That carbonation just cleans your palate a bit more. I like it.
It does. When you're saying that, you know, some people call it like honey wine. This to me lands. I wouldn't say vinous. Like I wouldn't say it is vinous, but I would say it lands in a way that like a dry wine would.
Yeah,
like
it's
a dry rosé would.
Definitely more wine-like. Whereas I got a lot more honey viscosity from the citrusy, and there was a good body on the hopped one, but not as much as the citrusy one.
Yeah.
Do you want to know some of the people that I have been enjoying on TikTok?
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was actually just about to say to you. So, to the people that you know that are into mead, are they in this country? Are they in another country?
So they're both British guys. I haven't managed to find anybody on TikTok that is a lady that is doing mead.
Mead ladies, assemble. Mead ladies. Tell us.
I have seen. I went and had a look on Instagram, and there is a lady on there called Miss Meadery.
Cool.
Who's posting about mead? So maybe check her out.
I want to meet her.
She has some interesting.
I want to virtually meet her.
So funny. But the two that I've been enjoying on TikTok are Zach Thamore Brews. Now he looks like a Viking.
That's what I'm saying. Like Vikings, yes. I'm gonna go pillage.
And he's got if you scroll through his TikTok, he has got a like it's in about 10 parts, but he's got a step-by-step of how he made traditional mead. He also made a vegan mead.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think he did it with agave.
Okay.
So interesting.
It'll be interesting to see like how that directly. We're never going to get the chance to, most likely, but it'd be really interesting to see how that compares to just a normal mead.
Yeah. Because I wonder if agave is as
does it really get that
different as honey can be?
Because I know that you can use that as like a replacement for like cooking, and you're making things that need honey, and you want something that's a bit less sugar, less like fatty. You can use the agave. So it'd just be interesting to see how that works in drinks. Yeah.
And then the other one is Sam making mead.
Can you guess his name's Sam?
I think his name's Sam. I think so. And he wears a crown a lot of the time.
Just as I hoped.
Yeah, it's great. Brilliant.
So covered, like, can we just have a moment? Well, you just judged me a minute ago for saying that gave me feels for either pillaging or working in the stables of the kingdom as a peasant. You were like, oh, what is that all about?
No,
you said that guy's a
more...
Viking, that's a pillaging, and then that guy thinks he's a king, obviously, so that it works.
Sure, I will validate your perceptions of what mead people are.
I didn't say what mead people are. I said the vibes that mead gave me. Mead people. Okay. I'm speaking to you. Mead I didn't people. Say this about you.
We're not mead people. Not in a bad way. I
could be a mead
actually people. If you give me some more of this hibiscus one, I could be. Oh, and you know
what? I think I probably would be the occasional mead person if it was more common.
You know,
like if I went out someplace, I'd think about it.
Yeah, I was looking on the Gosnell's website at their small batch ones, and they've done one where they've brewed it with a saison yeast.
Oh yeah,
and they've called it a saison, and I'm like, I want to try that, please.
Yeah, like I think that it's just so honestly, it is so uncommon to get a mead, especially something that's like innovative, like some of these ones. It's normally not that I'm saying that mead's not innovative, but I mean the sense of like the majority of what you see is the heritage site meads that are made, you know, they say we tried to make it in a way that's authentic and everything else. Yeah. And is that just that authentic, classic, traditional mead? Like you don't often see a resurgence of that in any type of different, unique way. You don't see it often. So when we saw these Gosnell ones, we were like, let's give them a go. It'll be quite interesting. But I think if I went out someplace and I saw they had a mead and it was a hibiscus mead or something like that, I'd be like, yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah, I think so. Might be open to trying it. I don't think I'd want the hibiscus mead mulled.
I don't think it would land right, because that would be like, for me, this really does taste for me like a rosé.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want a rosé.
No, you wouldn't mull
I mean, you could.
Yeah, you could. I don't know whether you should. Just because you should doesn't mean because you could doesn't mean you should.
Just because you can doesn't mean you do. So yeah, I wouldn't want a mulled rosé. So whereas some of these other ones, like I could see the citrusy being mulled because it already has that spice quality
it's already got a bit of spice to it. You can add a few more spices, like
and the mouth feels
right. Yeah, I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? Because when you use a nice red wine, if you're going to mull wine, generally, which has got a bit more of a body to it, whereas these might just like end up being a bit,
and just
they might end up being a bit too thin when you warm them up. I like that one.
I like that one as well, actually. But yeah, lady meaders,
ladies working in the mead industry,
or home brewing their mead.
Yeah, or
you don't even have to.
Mead.
You know, you don't have to. You could just say it's my hobby.
You could just be making mead at home, or just getting mead from places.
If you've got
tell us more
social
about
medias, mead. Tell us about your social media handles so that Jo can follow more mead ladies. I can follow any mead people.
We want to hear from you, mead people.
We want to hear from the mead people.
They might not want to hear from us. They might be like, you're those beer people.
Those filthy beer people that think we're all Vikings and kings.
Our beverage is way older than yours, and it's way more easy to brew. So don't be difficult. Go be difficult with your malts.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just be interested to hear more. Like, I'd be interested as well to see if other people that are normally beer people, if they tried some of these, would they like them as well? So
I've always had kind of the people that I have seen with mead in my life. Generally, they're drinking it because it's a higher ABV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that's anybody I've ever seen with mead. Admittedly, I haven't seen many people, and it's normally like I was talking to you about how in this country doesn't have them, and I don't understand why, but normally it's like Renaissance fairs and stuff like that in the US. That's where I've seen people like drinking mead.
Right.
So that's why I get the association. It's not just me being like horribly, stereotyping or anything. It's because that's like in the US, like that's where I see people drinking mead. They're not just like, I've gone down to a pub and got some mead. Like they're like, I am at King Richard's Fair and I'm being served chicken legs and mead. Like that
turkey legs and mead. Come on now.
Which missed opportunities in this country, because you have actual castles, so you could make a really ballin'.
Yeah, but I told you before, we don't have fairs. We just have the castle doing its thing, and we have.
Although saying that, my in-laws are going to see a joust.
Yeah,
and I was like,
jousts.
I was like, a joust, as in like knights, and they were like, yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't.
They have those at Leeds Castle.
Blew my mind. Leeds Castle, but not in Leeds.
Not in Leeds
Castle.
No, in Leeds Village.
You got me out on this. Last time you said you went to Leeds Castle, I was like, no, you didn't. You went to Leeds, and you were like, no.
Leeds Village. Yeah.
There. Right. Let's pour the sour.
Right, let's do the sour. I'm excited for this. If this tastes like a lambic, I'm going to be real happy.
Interesting, because after the hibiscus, I wasn't expecting this to look the way it looks, which effectively, more or less, looks slightly darker and hazier than the other ones. The other two.
One's about exactly the same.
Maybe I just didn't have enough in that glass. Let me see. This one for me is hazier.
Ooh, it's musty.
And I probably shouldn't say hazier because it's not a beer. I should say it's a little bit more cloudy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's funky.
Musty.
It's got the funky.
Funky. Like,
it's got funk.
Like, and it's not barnyard.
No, it's
like cheese.
I would say apple cider vinegar.
Oh, yes. That's what it is.
I'm nervous to drink it now.
Okay.
Because I don't really particularly love apple cider vinegar.
It tastes better than it smells.
Oh, God, yeah. And that was an aggressive comment there. I don't think it smelled horrible. It just smelled like apple cider vinegar. And I'm not a mass. It doesn't taste as vinegary. I think you really get the sour in the aroma, not in the taste, though. I get the sour in the aftertaste.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. It lingers around a bit. Like the taste is gone, and then you go, oh yeah, okay. You swallow a few more times, and you go, oh, it's actually a bit sour.
There's a little bit. I'm a sour aficionado, though.
It's not sour. It's not sour as in what we're used to drinking is sour.
Yeah.
But
it's a little bit.
It's a tartness in the aftertaste.
Yeah. It's a bit like a Gers, maybe. Because a Gers is sweeter than a lambic. I wouldn't say it's a lambic. It's similar to a lambic.
Are you upset about that? That it didn't hit your lambic target?
Is it
because if you went in with no expectations, would you feel a lot different, do you think, than the fact that you had an idea of what you thought it was going to be and it didn't match that?
Yeah. Because it's all right. Like, it's quite nice. And I quite like this one similarly to the hopped one.
Lighter mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's got a lighter mouthfeel. I can taste the honey in it. Yeah, there's a touch of tartness at the end. But I'm like, yeah, we're getting lambic. Woo! Yeah, no.
I think the hopped one and the sour one for me are ones that I could, because these are all session meads.
Yeah, you could session them.
But I think those two in particular I could session. The hibiscus and the citrusy, I don't think I could session, but for different reasons. The hibiscus. I think the hibiscus is too sweet for me. It's too, it's not really. Not that too sweet. Sweet's not the right word. It's too, like, I don't like drinking a lot of rosé. I don't like drinking a lot of that type of wine, like fruity wine or anything like that. That too much of that for me, I'm just like, it becomes very like, I just can't do it. Whereas these two are light enough. The hopped and the sour are light enough. They have just the right amount of flavor without having too bold a flavor that it becomes too much, but still having recognizable flavor. That I think those two are ones that I could session. Hibiscus is borderline. Like, I could have a few of the hibiscus, but I think like the citrusy, I'd be like maybe 1 can, 2 cans at an absolute push before I'd be like, yeah, it's too much.
So I just had another sip of the hopped and then had the sour. I get a lot more of that sour note. I reckon this would go really well. Like, you could cook with this.
You could make a really nice like I was gonna say like white wine sauce or something like that, but like that type of.
Like I just made a risotto
situation.
for dinner tonight.
Yes,
like,
that would make it
have
amazing.
So good in a risotto.
That would make a really good risotto. Based on the flavors, I do agree that I think it would make quite a good risotto.
Yeah.
Anything else that you've got about meads? I'm always getting appley in that, but not in a bad way. Not like, because I think like we're used to saying apple, and that's not always a good thing. Meads, I've no idea if I've just offended somebody by saying that, because I don't mean to, because it doesn't taste bad, but it gives me like dry apple cider vibes without the spices.
Isn't it? Because we're not mead people, we don't know what the pitfalls
we don't know
are. We don't know what the bad things are. Like things
we don't know how to describe it. What's like, the language?
Like you know, love my friend Liz when she had the old barbecue house from Braybrook, and then went up to the bar and went, I like that. It tastes like soap. And I was like, you can't tell beer people that it tastes soapy. That's not what you mean. And that's a word that as beer people, we're like, oh, it tastes soapy. No, that's not what she meant. She meant it tasted floral. If we say, oh, this tastes appley, and mead people are going to be like, oh no.
Yeah, they're going to be
that's
like,
not what we want.
That's
we've just used incorrect language. We're not experienced enough in our mead tasting.
I'd be really interested, like open invitation to anybody that actually listens to this, that knows about mead. Where I've started a new job not that long ago. There's a guy that I work with that started probably similar time to me, because we were both on like a onboard and introduction type call. And he was making a mead, and he was making like I think you'd like it. I think it was like a raspberry mead. Ooh. I want to say, but it was like a mead cider hybrid. Okay. And he said it basically didn't taste it. He said what it was at percentage wise already, and it was going to get even more was that like, I think he said around like, I think it was over 15 actually, but around where you'd expect based on what you said. But he said it wasn't done yet, so it was going to keep going. He's like, I wouldn't be shocked. I think he said something like he wouldn't be shocked if it got up to the 20s. Sorry, he's never going to hear this, but apologies if he hears that. He's like, that's not what I said.
If you've got honey sugars and fruit sugar in there, that's a lot for those yeasties.
Yes, so he was saying it was like really high even compared to what you'd expect.
Yeah,
but he said it just doesn't taste like that. He was like, it tasted like a record leg.
Oh,
and he was like, it's so easy drinking. He's like, that's the problem.
And
it hadn't even finished, dangerous. And he was like, it's still going to keep going. And from what I've sampled so far, you don't taste that ABV. Oof. And I was like, oh, I'm so curious. Like, he works in a different office to me, completely separate areas to me, so I'll probably never get a chance to try it. But
can't be like, give me some of your mead.
Yeah, honestly, it sounded really interesting for sure. But open invitation to anyone that makes their own mead or knows far more about mead and can teach us about mead, because we could have another episode where someone just teaches us about what's bad language, incorrect language. Like, have I offended someone by saying I think of Vikings when I think of mead? Like, tell me, is apple bad? Have I committed a cardinal sin about mead? Like, I'd really like to know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed this little tasting. I think it's definitely
been interesting.
Me up to the idea of more meats. I want to get that saison one.
Could we do one more like lap around with warmer meads?
Do you want to do one more?
One more lap around the world. Okay, hopped one again. I'm trying to like warm it up a bit because
mine are quite nice.
I think mine are still slightly cold, but the hopped one's got become a little bit more full in flavor compared to when I first had it. Maybe it's because I've sampled all these others and gone back to that, don't know. But I think I like the hopped one more second pass round than I did the first time. The citrusy, I still stand by my description of it. However, there is more saltiness to it this time.
Yeah, I'm getting more saltiness now.
Definitely more saltiness to it. And I don't think it's as spiced maybe as it was the first time round. And it is a bit much now. So I changed my mind, and I think I probably would go with the hopped over the citrusy.
Yeah.
It's just a bit too much. Hibiscus is still nice. Yeah. Still go with that. And then we're coming back around. I mean, the sour's not going to change because it's not it's just, I just had it. It's not warmed up much more. It's weird having that after just speed running all the other three.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What's your ranking?
Based on that last little speed run, I'd probably say hopped, hibiscus, sour, citrusy.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to say at all.
Just I think in terms of like the citrusy was the
I
don't want to say cloying's the word, but
yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a lot what they've got going in there. So mine's slightly different. Mine's hibiscus, hopped, sour, citrusy, but not far off.
No, not far off. I think the thing that just edged it a bit for the hop over the hibiscus for me is that I think I could drink more of the hopped.
Okay. Yeah.
Than the hibiscus.
Yeah.
But it's all really good.
Yeah, these were really interesting. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and to like what's weird is like the only one that had that like crispness to it that I expected when we read sparkling was probably the hibiscus. All the rest were more.
Yeah, they were only very like a kiss of carbonation, shall we say?
I don't even think they all had that. I think there was just a handful that had a slight bit, but
yeah. I think I would like to give you more information about mead and meaderies. Where can they get hold of you, Tori Bell?
Yeah, genuinely. If you want to come and teach me what I should not be saying about mead, or broad stroking what mead is with a brush, you can find me on Instagram at adventures_in_hopism. If someone wants to talk about making mead with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you Joanne can find me on A Woman's Brew. That is where I hang out on Instagram, Facebook, and I don't really hang out on Twitter, but we are on Twitter. A lot of the podcast content will go to that one. You can also find my beer school. Come and teach me a little bit about mead at the beer school, and I'll teach you a bit about beer. So that's Love Beer Learning. We are at Instagram. That's where I generally hang out, but we're also on Facebook, Twitter. I'm on the TikToks, following the mead makers
people,
following the mead people on TikTok, and we are on Pinterest. We also have a website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, and we will pick up emails for the podcast at lovebeerlearning@gmail.com.
Got some really exciting episodes coming up, some of which are from people that have actually emailed in and said that they would talk to us, some of which really responded to my emails that I was like, please come and talk to us. But we've got some, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I think we've got some really good stuff coming up. Maybe I'm just saying that because I'm biased and I'm really excited to talk to some of these people. So maybe I'm bigging it up, but we got some good stuff coming. I think we've got some good stuff coming. And if you have any suggestions,
make sure you're following or you've subscribed.
I want to do that like YouTube, like smash that like button, or is it like a bell?
Like and subscribe.
Smash the bell.
Like and subscribe. What's all that things? That's what the kids say, isn't it?
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Do all
smash
of
the bell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think a soup stop. But
anyway,
we have some exciting stuff coming up. And if there's anything though that you want to see, like even if it's a brewery that you want us to try to talk to, or if you are from a brewery that for some reason still wants to talk to us, thank you so much for everyone that has said that they wanted to talk to us already. Really appreciate it. But if you're a person that does want to talk to us, or you have a request of who you want us to talk to, or a topic you want us to talk about, honestly, please let us know. And
email us, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. And on that note, cheers.